I got that role reversal in a sense of what my clients get to experience when they get a puppy from us. I was like, oh, sure, I'm going to know what I'm doing. I'm going to pick my puppy and I'm going to hit the road. I think I made you stay there for an extra 2+ hours while I'm sitting there spinning my wheels going, this is the hardest dang decision I have had to make in such a long time. Hi guys, Kat here with Standing Stone, and thank you guys for tuning into the Standing Stone podcast. Today I have Lee Abbott with me with Flight Level GSPs, and we actually recently got a puppy from him, and that's what this podcast is going to be about. We want to talk about how we met, some of the experiences that we've had together, how we went about picking a puppy, and then how we've both gone about raising that puppy over the last 12 weeks. So the puppy that we actually kept from his most recent litter is Ariel, Flight Level's Gunnin' for Trouble. She's a sweet little black and white puppy that one of our trainers, Tessa, is actually helping raise right now. So let's wind back the time to, 5 years ago-ish, when we originally met by you putting down a deposit to get a puppy.
Yep. So Pearl was born in April 2019, so it would have been around New Year's Eve of 2018 when Kim and I first came down here to visit Ethan. And so, at that time, came in, you guys were working out of the garage at that time, and walk in and there's just kennel upon kennel and all these short hairs and just kind of not really knowing what to expect. And you're right. When we left a deposit.
Yep. And I remember calling you about puppies, and things kind of went back and forth on finding the right litter for you. And ultimately, you ended up not getting a puppy from us. You ended up getting a puppy out of a breeding that our male Vex sired. And that's where you got Pearl. So that was the start of your GSP endeavors, I think.
Correct.
So tell me a little bit about Pearl.
So Pearl is, as you say, she is a Vex Nelly puppy. Of course, to me, she absolutely has exceeded all of my expectations. She is loving in the house. She is a top athlete performer in the field. Pearl, the one thing she does not do is play the planted bird game well at all. However, she learned very quickly early on hunting wild birds that doesn't happen out there. So from a wild bird hunting aspect, she's exceeded my expectations to the point where the second time, she first went to South Dakota at 6 months of age, did outstanding. Second year, she was so steady. I walked past her, I looked down, I says, "Who are you?" Because training her can be a little frustrating at times because she can put it together on wild birds, but So extremely affectionate. Pearl's a very affectionate dog. I would say that this last litter, her maternal instincts were just over the top. She was very nurturing and loved this litter very, very much. So it was fun for me to see the growth, the development in her from that perspective as well. Huge part of the family. She is part of the family. I should say she's our first GSP as well. And she just fits in perfectly.
Well, we've had an opportunity to work with Pearl a little bit, as well as she's been here for some breedings. She's actually had 2 litters. Her first litter was bred to Gunner, which we kind of helped make the connections and facilitate. You really relied on us to look at pedigrees and make some recommendations. Ethan really enjoys that pedigree side of things. And I know you and he had a lot of long conversations about what would be the right dog for her. Also, what are her weaknesses and what could help that side of things. So her first breeding was to Gunner, and she had a really quality litter. How many was in that? She had 9 in that first litter. I knew that it was a nice sized litter. And then she was recently bred to Shooter, which is actually Gunner's dad, but Shooter is no longer doing live coverage breeding. So we got to go through the whole process with you and the learning experience of an artificially inseminated litter. which we utilize Abilene here in Kansas. They are amazing as far as collections and seminations go. We've had really great success rates with them, and that's who we always recommend, especially if you're close, local-esque to work through. So she did come to Abilene for that, didn't she?
Yeah, and they were great. Like you said, I mean, just top quality people. You walk in, it's just kind of like, yep, they're in charge. They got it.
Yep, yep.
They were wonderful.
But usually when you do an artificial insemination, because we actually bred Shooter artificially inseminated to Hazel this year as well, and we got a 4-puppy litter. So smaller litters when you artificially inseminate is not to be unexpected, just because mobility is way lower than fresh semen. So she had, 7 puppies?
She did.
So also a very nice quality litter for an artificial insemination. So that is awesome. And when you have started, because you've only had the 2 litters then.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Correct.
So tell me a little bit about that learning process for you, because breeding and whelping puppies is not an easy task.
Where do you begin? I mean, it takes a village. Maybe we can start there. Whether it is staff or it is your spouse, it is a friend, whatever it is. I would first start saying we loved it and we do enjoy it because you put so much thought into the breeding. Like you said, Ethan and I talked a lot about the why. And of course, the questions he would ask me and trying to give him an appropriate response to help facilitate this whole conversation, which leads to hopefully the right decision. It's fun because it's educational in so many rights. But yeah, it's nerve-wracking because, of course, from my perspective, I mean, Pearl, she is the center of my life, especially when we first got her. I jokingly say I gave up golf for Pearl, right? And
isn't it crazy how life changes and the chapters of your life change? Because, yeah, golf used to be a thing that we thought we liked to do, and I don't know the last time I've hit a golf ball.
Yeah, well, and especially, hey, look, it's when you bring an athlete into the house like these dogs are, they give you purpose. And that's one of the things I love about NAVDA is that it gives you 365 days a year to go out and train, do something with your dog purposely, right? So, okay. So relied incredibly on your videos, of course. The YouTube content was huge. The consultations, the phone calls that we would have with one another, the mentoring, I would just distill it down to that, was, of course, priceless and grateful for all that. But truly the videos, the Breezy YouTube video, right?
Yep. There's a whole series on Breezy. There's a whole series on Muddy. We've got some bits and pieces filled in with a litter from Piper. And currently we're doing a whole whelping series with Quest. And then I'm going to actually utilize some of all of those videos, the best of the best, if you will, to create a whelping course for people like yourself that might be a first-time breeder that need more guidance.
Well, yeah. And I mean, I watched the Breezy litter or the whelping the night before Pearl whelped. I did because, you're taking her temperatures, right? It's starting to drop. Here it comes. There's the magic number. And you're thinking, yep, she's starting to exhibit all of these signs. And of course, in the morning, how we managed not to have puppies in our bed the night before, we'll just say that we didn't, which we did not. But I mean, let her out to potty first thing in the morning, and right downstairs she went to the whelping box. And we were very fortunate. First litter, first puppy at 7:01. Last puppy was 11 something in the morning, all in the morning, right? Here it is, daytime whelping.
And got it done real quick.
Hey,
you're real lucky.
I know. But the thing with watching the videos, it's the preparation that I feel is so important because it's about the health of the female. That's what makes me the most nervous, of course. Pearl, again, I'm basing my experience with Pearl against Breezy's of what I saw. And what was so wonderful about doing that prep work was with Breezy, out pops this sack. And I'm thinking, okay, Pearl, Breezy would bite that sack right now. When are you going to bite them? Well, of course, first time mama, she's staring at this puppy in a perfect sack.
She might be licking it or sniffing it, or maybe just even staring at it like, what just happened?
Right. And so I think in that at some point, I think you may have intervened at one point, just pierced it, right? But of course, then if you read over here about whelping, it's like hands off, let the mother. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, I'm in between all this. I'm thinking, what if I just, and once you did that on the first puppy, Pearl's like, light switch. I got it. That's what you want me to do? Or I have to. And after that, it was the rest of them were just perfect.
Yeah.
But it's just something, right? You see this little beautiful thing come out and it's in a water sack.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, do your thing because I'm not really sure what you're supposed to do here.
And she's looking at you on her first litter going, I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to do here. So yeah, having that resource and being prepared as much as you can, having a mentor that you can reach out to. I know that we've helped mentor, but there are other mentors out there that you should reach out to if it's your first litter so that you're not flying by the seat of your pants. Because not only is the health of your mama so important because they're part of the family. Yeah. They're a dog that you have invested your time, energy, love to, and you want them to go through this process as safely and healthily as possible. And of course, you want the puppies to be healthy too.
Correct.
So yeah, as prepared as you can be, and still, even when you're prepared, and you have been lucky on your 2 litters that you've had that things have gone smoothly. There's been no loss of life, which is great. And honestly, I wish that was how it went every time, but it is breeding and you kind of have to be prepared for the worst sometimes. Yeah. But yeah, sometimes as much as you prepare, you still can't be prepared for everything. But
this last one was interesting because, she went about 2:30 or so in the morning and, I was with her at the head of the whelping box and, she was in labor on the first one for probably 35, 40 minutes. And of course, I'm spoiled on the first breeding or the first whelping rather. And I'm like, okay, what is because I had talked to my vet that earlier that day. I says, I know she's going to go, who's on call, this type of stuff. And I was probably about 20 minutes from making a call because I was just worried. I'm watching her push, and not a lot of progress. And then all of a sudden it was just this one magical push and I'm like, there we go. Okay.
But yes, even me, after breeding for as long as we have and whelping as many litters as we have, there are moments where I start to feel that slight nervousness, anxiety of like, okay, how long is too long? I want to be seeing progress, because the health of our mamas and our puppies is so important to us. I'm not just going to leave them to be and let them figure it out and come back in 12 hours and see what happened. Yeah. I'm going to be involved. They want us there, the entire thing. But yeah, you start to feel that little bit of like, I want to see some progress.
Correct.
And that's when, with Grit's last litter, which we decided after this last litter when we had to do the emergency C-section, because that's what I was seeing. She was laboring for a long time. No progress was being made. And we started to see some greenish discharge fluid. And that was prior to a puppy being born. That's not something I should be seeing before my first puppy's born. So I was like, okay, time for the vet. So there's sometimes some of those really clear indications that now is when you call. And sometimes it's not always as clear and you start questioning. But yeah, then once that first puppy comes, it's like, okay, sigh of relief. Things are happening as they should now.
Right. And look, we have cattle and we have a pretty good sized cattle operation. And it's funny. I mean, life is life, but it is our dog. And these are our pets. They are family. And we have loss on the farm. I mean, whether it's the adult mama or a calf, you just, for unknown reasons, you drive up checking cows during the day and there's a dead calf. You're thinking, what in the world happened? This isn't a new calf. So, but psychologically, it also hurts. Financially, the loss of that calf hurts. Of course, the loss of a puppy, let alone your female, would be just unconscionable. And so, right, the people doing the right thing, being attentive during the breeding process, during the whelping process, all of that stuff, the planning that goes into all this is critical. So getting a mentor is very, very important without question because the interests should be aligned. The goals should be aligned of why we're doing a breeding. And there's a lot that goes into it.
Absolutely. And I like what you said about it taking a village, whether that's staff, spouse, friend, neighbor, whatever you've got, because sure, the whelping process, it could go quick. You could get a nice 4-hour labor, or it could go all day.
Yeah.
I've Questy Pup. I love that dog, but man, she wants me in there all day long with her, or all night long, depending. But that is just such a small piece of having a litter, is the labor and the whelping of that litter. Then you've got all of the milestones in between day 1 and 8 weeks old when they go home, and those responsibilities would be almost impossible to do by yourself. They
100%.
are so time consuming.
Yes.
The care of the mama and the care of the puppies.
Yes.
And you did a phenomenal job with your litters, especially because we actually got a puppy from this last litter. So getting all of the updates that you sent out, which was awesome. Not only the videos, but the messages and the emails and things like that. Pictures. It was great to see all of those. Those are the type of things that we hope that we're giving to our puppy clients as well. That level of communication and updates. To see how the progress is going and see little snippets of those puppies over the 8 weeks. So you did a great job with all of that as well.
Appreciate that. But it's interesting because you're making relationships with strangers who are trusting you and you are trusting them. And, naturally, this litter was unique in that all but one puppy buyer has a shooter dog. Okay. Right. So they have a dog from shooter. So from a breeding perspective, that's a great customer. That's a great new relationship, right? Because they know what they're going to get. They're looking for something specific, and I have that. Great. But the responsibility that you have as someone breeding a dog is huge, because these people are putting so much faith into all of us that do it, that you're going to do the right thing. And that's a lot. I mean, for me, for 6.5 weeks, I slept downstairs because, of course, you're middle of the night, Pearl rolls over, you hear this, yep.
A little squeak. And it's just like having your own child when you're a first-time mom and you've got your little baby in the bassinet next to you, and you have no idea the kinds of sounds that baby should make, but you are like on high alert the entire time.
Right.
You're like, is that normal? Is that what's supposed to be happening?
Right. It's like, what's more alarming, the constant screaming from the puppy or the one yip and it's over?
Right.
Right. So both make me come up
Yeah.
and look inside the whelping box. Right. Yeah. I mean, after 6.5 weeks is when I started moving them up into the kennels. So out of the whelping box to get them acclimated. But it's, I think, to do it right, it'll be a labor of love. And of course, in this last litter, unknowingly, or we don't know what the root cause was, we had a GI issue. That was alarming.
Well, and that, which we discussed because you were talking to me about that, just like upset and like stool and puppies not gaining and things like that, which is not an uncommon occurrence. Maybe people don't always talk about it, but puppies go outside, they eat anything and everything they can get their little mouths on, which then even if it's not something that is a parasite or worms or things like that, it's enough that it is new to their system. They don't know how to process it. Their little tummies get upset. You get a little colitis. You start having loose stool. Then it's just this cyclic where, well, now their tummy's upset. Now they're having some diarrhea. Now they're losing weight. Rinse and repeat. So we got to stop that cycle and get their tummies feeling better so that they can process and digest their food, gain weight from it. And you can't just be like, oh, I'm going to fix this problem by pouring them more food and get them, fat and sassy, because that overabundance of food, if it's too rich, it's too much, they're also going to struggle to digest, especially if their tummy's still on the edge of feeling well and healthy gut, that they're just going to prolong that process. So getting back on a track, working with your vet, having your mentor bounce things off of you. Absolutely.
Yeah. When we went to the vet's like, well, you have cattle, you're not due vaccination, you'd be fine. So of course they sent us home with the saline to rehydrate them. And I can stick a cow or a calf, I think, with about anything, but you got this beautiful little puppy.
And they are so wiggly and squirmy, and you're trying to do sub-Q fluids. Oh yeah. It is so much easier to do sub-Q fluids on an adult sized dog than it is on a small little wiggly puppy.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Totally.
Something that you mentioned that I guess I hadn't completely put the pieces together until just now was about how many people that had previously had shooter puppies got a puppy from this litter, because we had a couple people reach out to us that were looking for puppies that were previous puppy buyers that had puppies at a shooter, and we didn't have anything. Our wait list is a little long sometimes, and I knew about this litter. I didn't know what you had spoken for. It was a shooter breeding, which is obviously not going to happen very often anymore with them being artificial inseminations only. And so I sent a couple people your way, and I knew that a couple people had ended up finalizing and getting a puppy from you, but that is really cool.
Yeah.
So,
and of course, what was fun was listening to them talk about their experience with their dog, right? This is shooter. And in fact, most of them say this puppy has a lot to live up to because this is what this shooter puppy does this, and you're like, yeah, shooter's an incredible dog. And yes, I would have the same expectations.
Well, that's really cool to hear. And I'm excited. And that leads me to the picking a puppy. This was a little bit eye-opening. Not that we have not gotten a puppy from an outside breeding or breeder before. That's not necessarily the case because Quest is from Outlander Kennel. And Cheryl kind of told us, this is the puppy for you. She just was like, this is the one you're going to want. We're like, okay, thanks, Cheryl. When I went out and got Grit from Black Ridge Kennel, I think I only had a couple females to choose from. I think I only had 2. So it was almost flip a coin. Well, this litter, we had a lot of females to choose from.
Yep.
Which I was like, perfect. At the beginning, I was like, this is going to be awesome. But there was only one liver female, right?
Correct.
And from adding to our breeding program standpoint, in my mind, I was like, liver is going to give us the most options from who we can breed her, potentially, as long as she checks all the boxes, of course, who we can breed her to, whether that's a black and white dog or a liver and white dog in the future. So I was like, in my mind, I was like, as long as all the other boxes get checked, we're probably going to go with that liver one. And that's what I told you from day one when those puppies were born. So I got that role reversal in a sense of what my clients get to experience when they get a puppy from us. They get the updates, and then they come out for puppy pick-out day, and they get to look at all the puppies for a very short amount of time in the grand scheme of things. Usually our puppy send home lasts 2-3 hours. I met you with the litter when they were at their eye appointments, and I think I was like, oh, sure, I'm going to know what I'm doing. I'm going to pick my puppy and I'm going to hit the road. I think I made you stay there for an extra 2+ hours while I'm sitting there spinning my wheels going, this is the hardest dang decision I have had to make in such a long time. And I definitely relied on a lot of your experience, as you should. Trust your breeder. But I was like, wow, is this what my puppy clients go through? I'm like, this is so stressful. So I definitely have a new appreciation for the people that, come in and have only gotten pictures and little video updates and, my communications, and then are overwhelmed by this litter of puppies that they have to look at and view and go home with a puppy that day. So I relied very heavily on your experiences of them over the last 8 weeks and their temperaments and personalities, because I couldn't see all of that in just a short amount of time. They're playing, and then they're playing in a little pile, and then they're digging up grass, and then they're trying to climb over the puppy corral. But it's a very small window and just a blink of an eye of what they're truly going to be showing me over the course of the next, 12 years of their life.
Yep.
So I know that I surprised you that day, but because originally we were all like, yes, we're keeping the liver puppy as long as all the boxes get checked. I mean, obviously I want to see them and handle them to make my final decision, but was fairly certain that's who I was going to be going home with.
That was a fun day. Because of course for all the reasons that you said, because look, for the times I've been down here for consultations or bringing Jet down here for training, when you're fortunate enough to, whoever your trainer is that you work with, you get to spend time with that person. You listen and you hang on to every word that person's saying, as you should. So this was different. I'm bringing you something of mine, right? And we've never interacted together when it comes to puppies before. So watching a professional dissect your litter.
And
right?
I was trying to be very please don't think I'm picking apart your litter, but these are all the
Yeah.
things. And I was trying to teach you as well, because
Yes.
if you choose puppies to keep and things like that, these are the things that I would be looking at from an evaluation standpoint. And what I was evaluating, yes, was some of the social interactions that we were seeing, but that was a very small piece of that, because I can only see so much in a short amount of time. And that's where I was relying on you for what you'd seen in their temperaments and personalities and things over the 8 weeks. But I can look at things like coat and structure and eyes and things like that. Eyes in a standpoint of, no, not what they were seeing at their eye appointment.
Right.
I'm not an ophthalmologist, but just eye color and shape and things like that. So I was looking at some of those physical attribute pieces. And sure, coloration, liver versus black and white, is a piece of that, as well as color on faces and things like that. I could evaluate all of those pieces, but I couldn't evaluate in that short window as much as I wanted to from a temperament standpoint.
Yep.
So I did rely on you as much as I could for that. And I agree with you. Jane, which is the female that you ended up keeping then from the litter, she was the liver female. And she was the escape artist. Every time we looked around, Miss Jane was trying to climb out of the puppy corral. Every time. Or dig out of it. One of the two. She was bound and determined to get out. And I'd be interested to see, to talk a little bit about her more, since you did keep her, to find out, has that determination carried on over the last 4 weeks? Because they're 12 weeks old now.
Correct. Not in a naughty way.
Okay.
Which is really relieving.
Yeah.
Right? Because, you sit and you think, what's making that one puppy desire to come up out of that whelping box and not be with its litter mates? I mean, what is it, right? Who knows what it was. But no, she is very easy. She's an easy puppy. She's a fun puppy, and she's bigger, right?
Mm-hmm.
As you said, a little bigger bone puppy. And
yes, she was.
So
big head on her,
big
too.
head.
Yeah.
In fact,
She looks just like Shooter's head.
Well, she's going to be a beautiful adult for sure. I mean, of course, I look at her conformation. I'm like, oh, you just kind of are stacked. Look beautiful. She is most recently, in fact, there is now, if you come to the house, you will see your check cord outside the front door, because she has taken me down barefooted into the field a few times. I thought, I can't scold this, because this is independence, right? This is her exploring. And even though she wants to roam out, and mind you, this is probably 70, 80 yards that she's tracking. Once I get out there and kind of run after her, she'll stop. Like, okay, and then I can get her, not a problem. But, I look at those things, I'm like, where's this leading me to, right? And so now you have to kind of set that ground rule with your wife, in this case, and say, Kim, when we get ready to do this, let's check cord her, right? That way we have control, so she understands that expectation. That front door does not mean I'm going to the field every time, right? But no, I hope what we saw is going to translate into a bold, confident puppy, which I have every reason to think that it would, so long as I don't mess anything up along the way. But I'm very happy with her. I like how she socializes with the adults. There'll be a period of time during the evening where we have everybody in the family room, if you will. That doesn't last very long. And because everybody needs a break, but I kind of like the idea of the larger social interaction for expectation settings of everybody, but her primarily. Maybe hold her on my lap while everybody else is chewing a bone or even playing. She's got to process all that. But then it's like, that's enough stimulation for everybody, to include me.
Yes.
Right? Let's start separating the pack here now. And so she is great in her kennel. She is fantastic in her kennel. Her clicker training is going outstanding. And so very, very happy with what I'm seeing. No behaviors that I would say would be uncharacteristic of a puppy her age.
So the determination that I was seeing out of her from like literally. If we hadn't stopped her, she would have climbed out of that puppy corral over and over and over. Absolutely. Oh, yeah. So that determination is not a bad thing, but it is something to consider when you're looking at, okay, how is she going to fit into my pack dynamic too? She is going to be a puppy that takes a lot. And as professionals, sure, we can give her that, but I also want her to work well. And it sounds like she's doing great with your pack, but I know that that puppy's going to take a lot. And we also have a lot of other dogs. And I didn't want to do necessarily her a disservice of not giving her as much as she was going to demand. Right. And require. So I'm really glad that you ended up with her, because this is going to allow us to evaluate as we move forward. We did end up with one of the black and white puppies, which didn't wish she was liver and white. I wish that it had been the opposite of one black and white puppy and all these liver and white puppies. And not because I don't like black and white. I mean, they're gorgeous. We love black and white dogs. We love liver and white dogs. But from the potential of who they can be bred to in the future standpoint is always something that we consider. And I know when I was standing there trying to pick these puppies, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so hard. I called Ethan, I think like 2 or 3 times, and he's like, you're the one that's there. You pick the puppy. I don't even have anything to go off of. You've got more information than I do. And I'm like, I know. But the one that just keeps coming back to her was Ariel. And she had just a little bit of color on her face. Nothing against color on their faces. Sometimes it's really freaking cute. But from a breeding standpoint, again, typically dogs that have color on their face are going to throw more of that. So I would expect if we breed her, a lot of her puppies in a litter will have color on their face. Is that a deal breaker? Absolutely not. It's just a personal aesthetic preference. So Ethan's like, so you're telling me you're going to pass on the right dog just because of color on its face? I'm like, well, I just want to make sure that you're okay with that if I don't pass on her because she's got color on her face. He's like, yeah, you're the one there. Make the decision. So shocked everybody coming back with a black and white puppy, as well as one with a little bit of color on her face, because a lot of people know that, like, hey, we try and have very solid-headed dogs in our program. Not every single one, but yeah. So it was just kind of threw everybody for a curveball, I think. So
one of the fun facts with, I did a write-up for all the puppy buyers, right? Just here's a little bit of history about your puppy since it's been with me. Now here, share this with your vet. Was, when you were going to be, the thought was you were going to get the liver. I wrote in there, this puppy will do well in a structured environment.
Because she needs that. I could see that too. And not that we couldn't give her the structured environment, but there is definitely a limit to some of that if she would go to a single dog or, smaller household to our chaotic kennel pack. Yes. There's definitely a difference in that structure standpoint. But one thing that I wanted to mention, because you mentioned it about her, and it's the exact same thing that I saw out of Ariel and Millie, because I actually brought Millie back with me because one of our previous puppy buyers got that puppy from your litter, from Shooter's litter. Yep, because she had a shooter dog as well. But I was kind of the middle ground, halfway point, and so I helped with the process of delivering that puppy. And I had those 2 puppies for, I think, 3 days. I was like 2 or 3 days. Holy cow. I was like, they're little 8-week-old puppies. I'm just going to let them out to potty real quick. Absolutely not. They were like, yeah, scattered. Like running around the house, digging through, like not digging, but like weaving through the mulch and the shrubbery. And I'm like, whoa, this was not what I expected out of puppies that haven't been exposed to my environment. So the boldness and confidence out of this litter, off the charts. I let them both inside as soon as we got home because it was late. I was going to get them fed. And sometimes puppies, even puppies out of our program, they will cautiously evaluate their environment. They'll step in, they'll kind of look around, they'll be like, I can do this. No, we let these 2 puppies in the house and they're like, woohoo, party, we own the place. And they were getting into everything. And I like scoop them both up and I'm like, okay, change of plans.
Regroup.
One at a time. And even one at a time, it was crazy. And they immediately ate their dinner without any hesitation. So super confident, super bold in their new environments, which I love seeing. I don't always get to see that side of things because, I'm keeping a lot of times a puppy from our program, and that's kind of how we've developed them and what I expect them to be and what we've bred them to be. So it's nice and refreshing to see that out of them. So clean, so quiet in their crates, incredibly focused for training sessions. But Tessa has mentioned the exact same thing that you're mentioning. She's like, is 12 weeks old too young to collar condition her for recall? I said, a little bit, Tessa. I'm like, let's check cord for now. She's like, dang, this puppy. She's like, she's so focused for training sessions, but as soon as you let her outside, she is gone. She's like, I'm going exploring.
Yeah.
And that's awesome to hear. They're going to have a ton of confidence. I would still say a little on the young side for collar conditioning because of just mental maturity. I really like 16 weeks for the most part. So we're check coordinate for the next 4 weeks until we hit that milestone. But they're very much ready for all of the exploring that they're ready to do. So
I've got the collar conditioning marked on my calendar.
The day we can start collar conditioning. Yes, I think Tessa has that written down as well because very, very bold. But the level of focus that they have shown for training sessions has been exceptional. I love it. And
so here's my thought on this too is we're making fun of the anticipation to collar condition, but at the same time, I see it as an opportunity to reinforce their boldness and their willingness to expand into these fields. But now I can more confidently allow that puppy to range where I've got the long arm of the collar, right, for vibrating this puppy back to me. So it's a little bit of both. You know, it is the fun of wrangling a 12-week-old puppy, which we would never want to harm that spirit, at the same time of letting that puppy continue its quest to be bold, but having the expectation that we're going to set with the vibrating that collar conditioning. Come on back, check in with me, go ahead and back out. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I know that you follow along with our YouTube videos and the playlists and things, the step-by-step kind of puppy playlists. We have an online course that lays everything out that we follow along with, and that's doesn't start collar conditioning until 16 weeks old.
Right.
But what you're saying is so true. So you've got a puppy that's super bold and confident, which I would say isn't abnormal for short hair puppies. They're bred to be independent. We want a bold, confident dog that has, you know, the independence and wants to go out and search, because otherwise they aren't going to be a valuable hunting partner if they don't want to leave our side. We need them out there ranging, finding birds for us. So that is definitely something that we don't want to hurt their spirit, if you will, or keep them from having that opportunity. We want them to have that socialization and that development of, I can go out and I can range. On a check cord is great because then you've got a longer arm with the check cord to get a hold of them. But you can take advantage of things like generalizing that recall behavior, not just in the house, but let's generalize that outside. And yeah, there's going to be a ton of distractions. We're going to need a check cord. But you can start generalizing that obedience behavior in other areas and applying that so that it's not, well, let's just throw a collar on it. Let's use that as our fix. Well, let's try some other things to help really condition and develop the behavior of coming back when we call, complying with what we're asking, and being cooperative to do that and willing to work for us, not just forcing the issue once we've got a collar on them.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. So are you following along with the course or just the YouTube videos for right now?
So I'm the course.
Okay. Awesome.
Doing that. And of course so this would be my fourth puppy. So it isn't that I'm unsure. It's kind of like if we looked at my aviation background. What is the planning, right? I want to make sure I don't repeat any mistakes that I've made with the previous dogs. Are you doing anything differently, right? Because it's been a minute since I've had a puppy to train. So making sure that I'm current on what people are doing. So that's why I am going back to, if you will, kind of square zero, making sure that I am being consistent with this puppy, knowing what worked for my other puppies. Absolutely.
Well, and I mean, you didn't own Shooter, but you own Pearl. So you know very well how she trained, how she developed. And so seeing that out of your puppies, which is why I love working with puppies from our program, is I know mom or I know dad or I know both. And I go, you are training exactly like your mother, or, oh, you're going to try and throw me that curveball. I've seen that before. Nice try. And if you're not learning, you're not trying. Things do change. I mean, from when I raised my first short hair puppy to now, absolutely. We've modified things. We've changed. There's new technology, if you will, out there from different collar systems and things like that. Our easy lead. I didn't have the easy lead until
Free shaping.
Yeah, and free shaping
That's
and
new to
things like
me.
that. Yeah, so all of these pieces, you can always be learning. You can always be trying new things. And when I created the course, which has only been out officially for a year now, it was released last year in October, so just over a year. It really made me process and think and analyze, how do we raise and develop our puppies from 8 weeks to a year old? What do I actually do myself? How long do I spend on that? How old should the puppy be when I'm moving on to this? And I really put a lot of thought into those ages, those milestones, the order of operations, if you will, how long I really need to be spending conditioning certain things before moving on to the next thing, so that when I laid that out for everyone else to be as, cookie cutter as it can be, and every puppy's a different, so you might modify, but I was like, yeah, I have a hole here in our YouTube videos. I feel like I need to create a new video that explains this better. And it allowed me to see that and not just, oh, yeah, there's videos on YouTube for that. Well, actually, no, there wasn't. I needed to create a video for that to fill in the hole in that course. But speaking of videos, have you seen the one with Ariel getting to meet Hex and Nix?
Loved them.
So that was the other thing. Like, she met our dogs like they were old friends. She had no hesitation at all meeting them. Our dogs absolutely love her. Even old man Nick started playing with her like a little puppy, which I would say our dogs are very friendly dogs. They do get along with all dogs, but there are definitely some dogs, puppies, that they prefer other than others. I don't know, something about cockers just rubs them the wrong way. It's that cocker energy, man. Our dogs are like, man, that puppy's wound tight.
Busyness, yeah.
Yeah, but, and short hairs have a lot of energy too, but nowhere on the level of a cocker puppy. But yeah, all of our puppies and all of our dogs really like Ariel, which is awesome to see, and her fitting into that pack dynamic. Even though she goes home with Tessa a lot, and Tessa has some other dogs too, she fits right into that pack dynamic as well. So that's really cool that you were saying your pack at home, she gets to interact with and stuff too. But yes, they do need a break from that as well, because Ariel has so much boldness that she would not leave them alone. And she's not to the point where she's proof to stay on a dog bed through distractions yet. That will come. That's my favorite obedience behavior to collar condition, I tell you what. But when that point comes, then it can be them all out at the same time and holding that accountability to everybody.
Yeah, my success with holding on a dog bed is when Jane decides to kind of nestle up next to Mama Pearl, and they'll both share a bone.
And that's perfect.
And it's peace in the valley, if for 7 seconds.
Okay.
Right.
We're going to build on duration here,
right.
Lee.
But there's still even, a couple minutes, right? They'll be up there for 3 to 5 minutes. And of course, the puppy squirrel, off they go, right? The cat walks by. It's like, oh my God, here we go.
Yep.
So you're right. It's just, you look forward to those milestones, because it's just, all of those experiences are important for everybody, knowing that there's going to be more expectations put on you.
And it does make things easier.
Yes.
When you get to that point, you can hold them accountable and have expectations for them to stay longer and longer on dog beds, so they can be out, part of the pack, part of the socialization, but not getting into everything, not chasing the cats, not knocking over the Christmas tree, things like that right now. So, so we were talking about getting to see how Jane's progressing, getting to see how Ariel's progressing. And I actually just took a deposit today for one of the other puppies to come in for training. So I know that I'm going to get to work with Sadie, and I know I'll get to work with Millie as well. And I'm really hoping that we get to work with the Adlong's puppy. So that'll be a really good overview of the litter to give you feedback as well, because I'll get to see 5 of the puppies out of a 7 puppy litter. And we might get to see, I don't know yet, but we might get to see some of the other puppies too. So we'll see.
Ace and Paige, I'm hoping.
Fingers crossed. That would be amazing. So I would say on average from our litters, I would work with 50, 60% of a litter typically. I have had litters that I have worked with every single puppy, but not very many. Typically the most is like 75% of a litter. but average is about 50%. So if I get to work with 100% of those puppies, that will be a really good overview of what they are. You can compare apples to apples and say, hey, look, all the puppies that were raised in 7 different households all have these similar traits.
Yes.
So nature versus nurture and that whole discussion.
Totally.
So that'll be exciting. I'm excited to see how all of these puppies really turn out and develop, and glad that you kept Jane and we have Ariel, and
I know
we'll get to see what those puppies develop as and what they become as part of breeding programs, hopefully in the future.
And NA testing, looking forward, really excited for that, because Pearl's first litter, Natural Ability Breeders Award, they did outstanding. I don't have any different expectation.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. And I mean, hopefully we can shoot for a utility breeder award on this next one. That would be awesome. So,
great.
And yeah, let's plug NAVDA here real quick. I know that you're super involved with the Missouri Uplands chapter and run dogs, but also are the test secretary, which is a huge responsibility. And your chapter is crazy involved. You have multiple tests, multiple 3-day tests, sometimes double 3-day tests, which takes a lot of organization skills.
It does. And we're fortunate. We have a Fred Rice, great president of the chapter, right? I mean, he is just, his whole heart is what leads our chapter. Very accomplished handlers in our chapter, very passionate people in our chapter. So the commitment to, by us volunteering, in turn, we're allowing everybody else to achieve their goals, their testing goals, pursue their passion as well. So it's a give and trade, because I go oftentimes when I test, I don't test at our chapter. So I appreciate the work that these other chapters are doing to give me a great experience when I'm testing. We're fortunate we have Mallard Valley Outfitters, beautiful,
phenomenal site,
beautiful ground, managed for waterfowl. So water is quite abundant, although our Missouri summers can take a little bit of our water away from us with drought, but nonetheless, we always are successful with the utility test. The chapter is good size. I mean, at one point we were a little over 200 members. I'm not sure where our numbers are, probably just a little less right now, but we draw from,
I know we just got that email to renew, so that'll probably bump numbers again.
Probably will. We pull from a lot of areas. So we have our training days. We don't just do them in one place in mid-Missouri. We do Southwest Missouri. We do Illinois. And I think one other place we'll try to hit in Missouri as well, just to make sure that we're giving fairness to our members. So not everyone's enduring a 5-hour or 4-hour car ride. But I mean, Louisiana, Mississippi, we have people coming in from all over who are members, and who test
and
very
that's
loyally.
Something too, because we're members.
Yes.
I mean, we're from Kansas, so not too far from Missouri. A little far from the testing grounds, but not bad. And we are happy to have that relationship with Missouri Uplands and get out there for training. I know Charles goes out there for training days as well as testing. We've gone out there for testing opportunities and judged and things like that.
Yep.
So great opportunities, and that relationship, that give and take, goes back and forth.
Well, you're fortunate, whether it's the Kansas chapter, who have you and Ethan, Kai, with us, we're very fortunate. We have, you guys are part of it. We have some fantastic amateur trainers. I mean, Tim Materkowski, our vice president. Yeah. Put 2 VCs on in 1 year, right?
Yeah.
Brandon Whitfield, same thing. Fred, of course. All of this to me matters because they are resources. You are resources. And when these people show up to a training day, they're there to help you as well as get to train their dogs. They're there to help the greater membership. And that to me is just priceless.
Well, when we have training days out here for the Kansas chapter, honestly, we're not working our own dogs.
Right.
Our dogs get worked enough on non-training days. And so it's just allowing us to, the resource expertise and have an opportunity to have grounds to work on that are testing quality grounds so that people can be as prepared as possible. So I'm sure that some of the people that come and help out and volunteer, they're not even running dogs and working dogs on those training days. They're just there to volunteer and help out.
And they enjoy the dogs.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So we do it for the dogs, that's
Correct.
for sure.
That's right. Yes, we do.
Yep. So, well, thank you so much, Lee, for talking with me today. I love the relationship that has grown over the last 5 years, not only through breeding and puppies, but NAVHDA as well, and look forward to what the years have ahead of us.
Likewise, Kat. This has been great. You know, you and Ethan are very important to the what would you say, the novice training community, you know, because the online content that you make available, as well as yourselves being so accessible, is very important. And you supporting people who you don't know you're supporting. And I know that you've played a very instrumental role in my journey with the short hair in a very short time, and I'm grateful for that. So thank you both very much for that.
Well, absolutely. Thank you. And where can people find you and Flight Level Kennels if they are looking for puppies in the future and just finding out a little bit more about you?
Yep. So my website is flightlevelkennels.com. My contact information is there. There's on social media as well. You can look me up on Instagram, Flight Level GSP. So multiple different ways to reach out to me. And by all means, if there's anything that I can questions I can answer, you know, we're looking at maybe doing a spring breeding with Bernie. I'm not sure yet. Of course, you know, we talked about it takes a village. Well, that village has to be present also,
Yes.
right? So we're still working through that one right now. But you know, flightlevelkennels.com on my website, you can get all my contact information.
Awesome. And I know that you're a great resource for the NAVHDA chapter
Yes.
as well out there. So if people have questions about getting entered, about testing, that sort of thing, feel free to reach out to Lee too. He doesn't tell people no, so he will be happy to answer your questions.
Yes.
So thank you
Yes.
guys for listening. I'm Kat the dog trainer, and we'll catch you on the next podcast.